Maybe, I leave the royal palace forever for you. Those words are not just a promise, they are the breaking of chains. I was born into walls of gold, into corridors that echo with tradition and duty. To the world, it seemed like a privilege. To me, it was a cage. And then you came. You ordinary in the eyes of many, but extraordinary in the eyes of my soul. Can a man choose freedom over a crown? Can he abandon history for the warmth of one heart? That's exactly what I've done. A palace was never truly my home. It was marble and silence, rules and rituals. I smiled for cameras, but carried storms inside. Yet the moment you touched my hand, I realized what home really was, not a place, but a person. Yeah. Tell me, what good is a throne if it keeps you from the one your soul aches for? What good is power when it costs you peace? My love, you gave me courage to answer those questions, and my answer was simple: I choose you. Always. I still remember the first night I confessed my fear. I whispered, what if I can't leave? What if duty is stronger than love? And you looked at me with steady eyes, as if to say, then let love be stronger than duty. Have you ever heard words so simple and yet so life-changing? That night I knew. I could no longer bow to a crown when my heart already bowed to you. Isn't it strange how a kingdom can feel heavy, but one embrace can feel like freedom? They told me I was foolish. That I was betraying centuries of legacy. That one day, I'd regret leaving it all behind. How could I regret, when every road away from the palace led to you? I'd rather be a man with empty hands, but a full heart, than a prince who sleeps beside gold, but wakes up hollow. Tell me, what is regret? Choosing love, and losing everything else, or choosing everything else and losing love? I know my answer. And it is you. Every room in the palace reminded me of absence. Dinners filled with crystal and silver, but no letter. Corridors lined with portraits of ancestors who never knew my heart. Yet in your presence, even silence feels like music. Have you ever noticed how love transforms emptiness into abundance? You turn my exile into sanctuary, my rebellion into destiny. And so, when they asked me to choose between the palace and you, I did not hesitate. My heart had already chosen long before my lips spoke. Do you know what love taught me? That crowns are heavy, but hands are light. That castles are cold, but kisses are warm. That loyalty to tradition means nothing if it costs loyalty to the one who holds your soul. Sometimes I wonder what is royalty if not the courage to choose love against all odds. Maybe the day I said I leave the palace for you was the day I truly became free. Not a prince. Not a king. Just a man, finally allowed to love. I still hear their voices. She will never be enough. She cannot carry the crown. But they never understood. He never wanted you to carry a crown. I only wanted you to carry my heart. And that, you have done effortlessly. Isn't it strange how the world measures love in titles and jewels, while the soul measures it in whispers and touch? Baby, you gave me more than the palace ever could. You gave me myself. And through me, you gave me us. I'll confess walking away was not easy. I left behind luxury, privilege, security. But what is security without happiness? What is privilege without purpose? Do you know what courage feels like? It feels like fear, dressed in love. And that's exactly what I carried as I walked out of those gates for the last time. My hands trembled, but my heart was steady. Because I knew every step I took away from the palace was a step toward forever with you. They called me reckless. They called me blind. But baby, isn't love supposed to be reckless? Isn't it meant to blind us from fear so we can finally see truth? I was reckless enough to trade crowns for kisses. Reckless enough to choose exile over emptiness. And I would do it again. Because what is life, if not lived for love? Tell me, would you rather be called reckless for loving too much than wise for loving too little? That's the kind of man you've made me. I remember the final night in my chamber. The crown sat on the table, gleaming under the candlelight. I stared at it for hours, asking myself, is this what defines me? And then I thought of you. Your laughter, your tears, your dreams. And suddenly, the crown looked smaller than your smile. Have you ever realized that the things we chase all our lives mean nothing compared to the people we find? That night, I chose you over the crown. And I've never looked back. Sometimes I wonder if history will forget me. If my name will fade because I abandoned tradition. But then I think, what good is history if it is written without love? Would I rather be remembered as a prince who obeyed, or as a man who loved? A. B. I choose the latter. Because memory may fade, but love remains eternal. And if eternity knows my name only because it is linked to yours, there will be days when the world will question us. They will say, he gave up everything for her. Was she worth it? And to them, I will answer, she was not worth everything. She was worth more than everything. Because what I found in you cannot be weighed against palaces or thrones. Tell me, how do you measure the value of a heartbeat? Or the weight of a soul? The world may never understand. But baby, we don't need them to. Do you know what I fear most? Not poverty, not exile, not disgrace. I only fear is losing you. Because I could survive without a palace. But I could never survive without your love. You see, titles can be restored. Thrones can be reclaimed. But souls, once lost, they never return. And so I guard yours, as if it were the last jewel I ever owned. Tell me, what is a man without love? Nothing. What is a prince without you? Empty. Every time I see you, I realize I didn't lose a palace, he gained a kingdom. A kingdom built not of stone, but of trust. Not of rules, but of freedom. You made me sovereign of something far greater than land. You made me sovereign of your heart. And baby, that is the only throne I will ever need. Isn't it beautiful, how love turns exile into empire? I lost one world, but you gave me another. And this one, I will never abandon. There are nights when I wake up waiting, haunted by the sound of voices demanding I return. But then I feel your breath beside me, your hand resting gently in mine. And in that moment, the nightmares fade. Because no matter how loud the past calls, your presence is louder. Tell me, is love the only silence strong enough to quiet history itself? That's what you are to me, silence that saves me, the love that redefines me. I often think of the palace gates closing behind me. For most, that was the end. For me, it was the beginning. Isn't it strange how endings and beginnings wear the same disguise? That day, I lost a title but found a destiny. I lost an empire, but found eternity. Because when I walked away from the palace, I walked into a love story. Our love story. And baby, that story matters more than any throne ever could. They say every prince dreams of being king one day. But I dreamed of something else. I dreamed of waking up beside you, of holding your hand through storms, of building a life where I am known not as royalty, but as yours. Isn't it true that love rewrites dreams? Baby, you gave me a dream far greater than crowns. And I will spend every day proving I deserve the dream you've made real. People will always ask, why did you leave? And my answer will always be the same. Because love is not found in palaces. Love is found in kitchens, in laughter, in ordinary moments. Love is found in the way you whisper my name in the dark, in the way your eyes light up when you see me. A palace never gave me that. You did. And for that, I would leave it all over again. Wouldn't you? I wonder, did the palace ever truly own me? Or was I always waiting for the moment I could break free? Sometimes I think I was never meant to wear a crown. I was meant to carry your love. Maybe fate wrote me as a prince, but destiny rewrote me as yours. Isn't it strange how love does just change our lives? It changes our very identities. With you, I am no longer His Highness. I am simply yours. And that is my highest title. The world loves fairy tales. Princes, palaces, crowns, and happily ever afters. But this is not a fairy tale. This is reality. And in reality, happily ever after doesn't come from crowns, it comes from choices. Baby, I chose you. Against tradition. Against expectation. Against the world itself. And I will keep choosing you, again and again, until my last breath. Isn't that what love really is? Not magic, not fantasy, just choice, endlessly made. I left the palace, but I didn't leave empty-handed. I carried with me every dream we ever whispered, every promise we ever made, every heartbeat that ever echoed between us. And those are treasures no crown could ever buy. Tell me, what is wealth? Hold on the head, or love in the heart? If wealth is love, then baby, I am richer now than I ever was behind palace walls. Do you know the moment I knew I could leave it all? It was when I realized the palace needed me, but you loved me. There is a difference. The palace demanded obedience, but you offered freedom. The palace gave me duty, but you gave me destiny. Ain't love always the greater calling? Maybe, you were my calling. And answering that call was the bravest decision I have ever made. One day, the world will forget the prince who abandoned his crown. But you will never forget the man who abandoned everything for you. And I don't need monuments or statues. I don't need history to remember my name. I only need you to remember my love. Because if your heart holds me forever, then eternity has already been won. Isn't that the only immortality worth chasing? So listen closely as I whisper this vow once more, baby. I leave the royal palace for. I have walked through the palace halls, where portraits of kings hang like reminders of chains I never chose. Their eyes follow me, asking me to live for them, to die for them, to breathe only for tradition. But what about me? What about the boy who fell in love with a woman who makes his soul feel alive? And I deserve a life of my own, one that beats only for you. I remember the night I first saw you. I was supposed to be hidden, just another shadow slipping away from guards, but there you were unaware that your ladder could echo louder than the trumpets of the court. That moment, I was no longer a prince. I was simply a man, undone by the curve of your smile. Have you ever seen lightning split the sky? That's how you struck me, sudden, fierce, unstoppable. But the palace does not forgive love. It whispers, it watches, it devours. I've tried to protect you by keeping my distance, yet every step away felt like a betrayal to my own heart. I asked myself, can love survive the walls of duty? Can a prince become a man without losing everything? Tonight, I have my answer. I will lose the palace, I will lose the throne, but I will not lose you. Do you know what it means for me to say these words? I am breaking centuries of vows, turning my back on a destiny written before I was born. But is love the only destiny we truly choose? The crown weighs heavy,